Dangerously cold weather is closing schools across the Midwest. Temperatures near the Canadian border in Minnesota fell to -30. In Minneapolis at midday, temps were 16 below zero. Plenty of layers for those who dared to go outside.
2 layers of pants, boots, hat. So I'm more concerned about him staying warm than myself.
While the most extreme cold is in the middle of the country, the east is also cooling down fast. In Washington Tuesday morning, workers braved the cold to dismantle podiums used in Monday's inauguration celebration. 19-degree temperatures caused New Yorkers to bundle up on their way to work. Visiting from Hawaii, Kayla Norris was having a hard time adjusting.
Well, I just came here for a week to visit my brother, and the temperature is probably in the 80s, and so I'm just getting used to bundling up.
While much of the country is shivering, Los Angeles is experiencing just the opposite, a mini heat wave. The National Weather Service says the high of 81 in downtown Los Angeles tied a January record set more than 100 years ago. Matt Friedman, Associated Press.
Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Wednesday, January 23rd, 2013, and I'm Darko. So, you just saw that video talking about how California was warming up. I was going to put this a little bit later, but I guess I'll just include it now. This is from January 13th, 2013. California chills but dodges crop damage and cold snap. Obviously that last video was pretty more recent, so. But it goes on here, it says, alerts predicting freezing temperatures and frost were becoming familiar in much of the state, with new high winds warnings in place for the mountains around LA. But it says here that the LA area, which usually makes news for its triple-digit temperatures, hit a low of 30 degrees on Sunday morning. My only comment on this is they were talking about how it was cold everywhere else. I always find it kind of amazing that that it can still actually get this cold with all the spraying and geoengineering that's taking place. One thing I'm noticing right now in this picture is you could actually see regular cumulus puffy clouds. We had that about 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, but about 2-3 days ago, where we had the puffy clouds, and it was cold. I mean, during the day, usually when they spray during the day, you'll have the puffy clouds in the morning, and then by early afternoon into the evening, I call it cloud busting. They basically spray the aerosols. They get pulsed with all the frequencies, with all the towers and that, and then they turn this into mush. And then, of course, the temperature rises about 10-15 degrees higher than what it really should be. So, like I said before, it's kind of amazing what they're doing to people if we really are heading into a cooling period, a global cooling period. Some people call it a mini ice age or an ice age. It's that we're not going to be ready for it. We're not going to be acclimated because they're going to all of this geoengineering making it warmer. So then when we get these little cold spells, it's usually, I wonder if it's because they can't fight it. They can't change it enough, to make it warmer with all the aerosols and that. But I think LA is kind of like Tehran. They're in like a soup bowl. So it could be easier once they get the spraying going in there with all the smog to actually increase the temperature a lot faster. It says here, snowpocalypse from Russia. Snow tsunami swallows streets, cars, and buildings. So it says unrelenting snowfalls have caused unprecedented chaos in Russia over the past week. The country has seen scores of traffic accidents, flight delays, in some cases complete isolation from remote settlements and towns. And here's just some more pictures of it. There's actually a picture from Business Insider of Chicago where the fire department was putting out a fire, and you can see the whole building covered. It's like an ice palace or something like that. It's pretty interesting what the Japanese do to get their I mean, they have they carve roads out of these mountains of snow. I mean, they're like this higher, and how they do that, it's pretty interesting. You can find videos of that on YouTube. Dead of winter arrives for the United States. It says harsh temperatures are set across the nation. It's interesting to point out too how it's snowing here in Illinois and in the Midwest, and I just heard in the radio just the other day about how we actually hit just a couple of days ago a record of hardly any snowfall at all, less than 1 inch. The last time was 1889, right around then, right? So you know there's some engineering going on. So people say it finally feels like winter, right? Maybe they've geared back a little bit on the engineering because it's a little too obvious. So an Arctic air blast yesterday brought some of the lowest temperatures seen in almost 2 years to the Midwest, and whether you live in the upper plains, New England, or mid-Atlantic, you can expect to see the deep freeze continue for the rest of the week. From the National Weather Service, they put out bitter cold continues across much of the northern U.S. The coldest air so far this season is to affect, much of the northern U.S. and from the upper northern plains to the mid-Atlantic and northeast. It says daytime highs on Wednesday will be below zero for parts of the upper Midwest and teens across much of the Great Lakes, Ohio, Northeast. Wind chill advisories are in effect in the Dakotas to Maine, and temperatures should be moderate by the weekend. And there's a little chart. You can go and check it out. Links will be posted. Then you have cold kills 17, including children in Afghanistan camps. It says at least 17 people, including children, have been killed by severe cold in refugee camps in Afghanistan. Though Amnesty International says the deaths were preventable, and it goes on and says that it shows the inadequate coordination of the winter assistance to hundreds of thousands of people living in displacement camps across the country. More than 500,000 Afghans are internally displaced, living in refugee camps, which is what they're talking about in Mali right now. There's already, I think they said, a number like that, like a lot, like 500,000 or 50,000 people already displaced, like Syria, like Afghanistan, like Iraq. And I think 108 more is 108. I don't agree with everything that he says, but he made a really good point recently about that's one of the main points of all these operations is not just the resources, but displacing people and just breaking all the ties between tribes, between clans, between communities or neighborhoods, just destroying it all, right? Because like I said, it's the goal for controlling by the powers that be is to get us all basically on our own by ourselves. Winter in Europe disrupts transportation. It says that winter in Europe has brought disorder to transport networks and canceled hundreds of flights across the continent. This is from the 22nd, including poor visibility, heavy snow, and freezing weather. 3 people have died and 2 others were injured in a car accident. It says here, the chief European UK economist, here we go, right? With the bad weather looking set to continue well into this week and possibly beyond, the risk of a triple-dip recession is growing by the day. So more fear, right? They always got to put out that fear, man. I just get so tired of it. Like a commenter was saying, it's exhausting, the fear. It's like, shut the hell up. Heavy snowfall badly affects UK economy. So, and this is a bunch of BS because we all know that people go and they hoard, right? They do hoard buying. Whenever you see a big storm coming, you see everybody out at the grocery store and it's packed. And they're going crazy, right? And, you know, they say that loss of working days for manufacturers and builders. Well, you know, in the winter they don't usually build anyways. There's not that much construction in the winter. That's what the whole thing about construction is. It's seasonal. And there's jobs elsewhere, right? There's always going to be, when the snow comes, there's snow plows, salt, all kinds of different things. Food. UK snow supermarkets left with empty shelves from panic buying bread, milk, and other essentials. We're all in short supply across southern Wales as the Met Office released a rare red warning predicting extreme weather. So there you go. So I don't know if they're getting paid in ducats or funny money or whatever, but I'm sure that they profited off of that, which is good for the, quote, economy, right, the rigged economy. Spot gas prices in Europe skyrocket with temperatures fall. So it says cold weather in Europe has caused the season's record high spot prices for gas crossing the $400 mark, but even this does not make this staple. But higher long-term contract prices more attractive to European customers. So they're already getting, again, this is another type of rigged market, the energy market, and they just rape people, especially out in Britain with those natural gas prices. Frosty reception, snowball fights banned in Belgium region. It says throwing a snowball could cost you 100 euros if you do so in Flanders. Local authorities in Belgium's Flemish region have outlawed the game with fines and policemen to enforce the ban. It went on to compare the snowball fights to throwing stones. Such games put children's as well as adults' health at risk, local officials explain, because I care about your health, right? Iran executes muggers who took man's coat. It says video of crime was posted to YouTube after pledging to get tough on growing street crime. They've publicly hanged 2 muggers who took a man's coat, bag, and cash in November in a crime that was videotaped and posted to YouTube. The men ages 20 and 23 were convicted of Marhabra, whatever, or war against God. It says after a video showed them jumping off motorbikes and attacking the men at knife point. Well, 31% said that this was scary, and it goes on here. It says the Times and these other types of news sources said the punishment was excessive and others approving. So it goes on there, and the Times gloomily adds that such public displays of remorseless justice may be achieving little. So, yeah, it says its correspondent had its iPad stolen while covering the event. This is the same country that actually hung bankers for fraud. So, it's talking about throwing stones. I mean, who's the U.S. to throw stones when you got rampant fraud going on? Literally, HSBC was too big to jail. So, it's like everything else, like euthanasia, capital punishment. I'm not for, only because it's carried out through the state. So, if it was carried out, what people call vigilantism, which is actual real justice, when people can do it, like the actual family members, the ones with invested interest, say, well, if they have an invested interest to do it, if they really feel like they want to carry out justice, then they can do that themselves. But to hand it over to the state, I think is not cool. But if they do it, that's their choice, I guess. EU wants power to sack journalists. The European Union report has urged tight press regulation and demanded that Brussels officials are given control of national media supervisors with new powers to enforce fines or the sacking of journalists. Or they could just kill them, right? Or I'm sorry, they can help them commit suicide. There's a couple facing a $500 a day fine for home garden in their own yard. Well, unfortunately, it's not their own yard. It's the king's. It's the Lord's, right? That's why you pay property tax. You pay property tax to rent the land from the lords, which enters to the king. So that's why they call it the royal estate or real estate. So, it sucks, but unless we can get past this maritime weird law, weird system. I mean, people say, oh, you live in a republic, you live in democracy. You don't really know what you live in. It's the same everywhere. It just has a different spin or name on it. But we're all not really free. So I guess we can complain about this, but, So an Orlando couple that faced prosecution from city officials over their front yard garden in November is in hot water again after refusing to dig up their vegetables. That's right, they want to dig up food and throw it away. Only this time they are facing stiff financial penalties for their non-compliance, including $500 a day. They say the garden is helping sustain them. You can go in there, a link will be posted. You could check out the other incidences where this has occurred in this Natural News article. Marijuana possession arrests exceed violent crime arrest. And it's pretty sad. It's just like what I was just talking about. So people, marijuana should be legal. They said that it should be regulated. See, no, I don't think it should be. Why does it have to go from being controlled or outlawed or whatever, criminalized by the state so they can make a lot of money off of it, because they know people are going to do it anyways? Why did people fall for that? Is it like some kind of disorder because you're used to being a slave and being a victim that you say, well, let's not just go from having it totally criminalized, like I just killed somebody for smoking a joint, to not being anything, right? Just whatever. No, it has to be regulated. See, that's how they get you by the short hairs, for these people that go from this to that. You're being steered like a cattle to this. Oh, yeah, heavily tax it, right? But you can go here and check it out. The number of arrests for marijuana possession has risen sharply since 1980. That's when I remember the whole Reagan era with the just say no, surpassing arrests for violent crime by more than 100,000. Below is the chart of marijuana possession and violent crime arrests from 1980 to 2011. Philadelphia fifth graders searched by school officials after bringing paper gun to class. A child's mother believes the school officials dramatically overreacted, saying, "Why did you stand over my daughter and tell her you should call the cops on her?" So wow, look at that. Her fellow future slaves are being indoctrinated in this re-education camp. She was called a murderer by them for bringing a piece of paper that looked like a gun to school. Then you have bang, you're suspended. Maryland child punished for making gun gestures. Remember this. Suspended for making gun gestures during a harmless game of pretend. And this is the second time it's happened in the state in a month. 5-year-old kindergartner with pink bubble gun suspended from school. See, this is what's messed up, is that they're not addressing the issue, which is she told her classmates she was going to shoot them and shoot herself. That is an indicator of the programming that's going on. I'm going to go shoot whatever because I'm a victim, a slave, I have no power, so I'm going to just go ahead and take it out on other slaves, and then I'm going to take my own self out. That's what they should be addressing, right? Programming. Belmont to use breathalyzers on students before dances. If you want to tell the state to stick it, homeschool your kids. So see, even Forbes knows. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.